Talking about child protection. In this video, you will see two people having a conversation about this project, talking about child protection. One of the people in the film is me, Audrey, and I'm working on the project. The other is an actress who is playing the role of someone who is looking to find out more about the study. The idea is that by watching our conversation, this will provide you with more of an understanding of what the project is about. Okay? Anyway, take a look. I'm Audrey, and I'm here to tell you about this project.
Hi, I'm Kate.
Have you read this information sheet?
Yes, but there were some things I wasn't completely sure about.
Okay, I'll explain what it means. This project is focusing on young deaf and disabled people who have been abused. We would like to find out what kind of support they received after the abuse happened. That support could have come from the police, social work, a healthcare professional, or a teacher.
What do you mean by abuse?
Abuse means someone hurting you or touching you. It could be that they hit you or touched you in a way that didn't feel right, or forced you to touch them. It could also mean living in a house that's filthy, or not being given enough to eat, so you're always hungry. It could mean witnessing violence at home between adults that left you feeling very upset. It could also mean someone constantly criticizing you, making you feel worthless and unloved.
It says that the project is being run by the NSPCC, University of Edinburgh, University of Strathclyde and Coventry University. Who are they?
The NSPCC is the National Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children. They're an organisation that helps children and young people who've been abused or harmed in some way. The NSPCC want to find out from deaf and disabled children and young people who've been abused what support they received and what their experiences were. By listening to them, they hope to be able to better protect deaf and disabled children and young people in the future. So the NSPCC have given the University of Edinburgh, University of Strathclyde and the University of Coventry money to find this out, which is why we've set up this project.
Why do you want to talk to deaf and disabled young people?
We know from previous research that deaf and disabled children and young people are 4 times more likely to be abused than other children and young people. But of those that have been found to have been abused, only 50% have child protection support plans, which are drawn up by people such as social workers, police, health workers, and people in education to ensure that they are being protected from further harm. If only a few of the deaf and disabled children and young people have plans, that means a lot of them are not being protected, and the NSPCC want to know why. The NSPCC want to ask them if, after they were hurt, did anyone try to help them? Did they ask for any help? If they got any support, did they think it was helpful or not? It's important to remember that people working for the police, in health and social work, have a responsibility in law to ensure that children and young people are protected from abuse. So we want to know if they thought that the support they received was helpful and whether they felt listened to. We also want to know if they didn't tell anyone, why not? Our researchers are looking to meet deaf and disabled children and young people between the ages of 11 and 26. And by disabled, we mean that person may use a wheelchair, have a learning difficulty, a sight problem, or problems with mobility. The person might also have an autistic spectrum condition. So these are the people we would like to meet.
I know someone who might want to talk to you. What happens next?
Well, they can contact me or Anita and we will work out the best time to meet them.
Where would they meet?
They can choose. It could be in their home or somewhere else. Either myself or Anita can organise somewhere to meet.
What if the person doesn't want to meet at home? Travel is very expensive and might not be easy for them.
We can pay for a bus or train or a taxi to take the young person to the meeting and return home again. We will meet them wherever they want. It doesn't have to be at their home. We think it'll be useful to have 2 meetings. In the first meeting, we can get to know each other and tell the young person more about the project. They can ask any questions so they know what to expect from the second meeting. The first meeting will last about 30 minutes, and as I said, it'll be an opportunity to get to know one another. The second meeting will take place later at a suitable time for the young person. This time it'll be for about an hour, and it's at this meeting we'll ask the young person about the support they received after they were abused.
Can the young person bring a friend to the meeting?
Yes, they can bring a friend or someone to support them, and that could be a member of their family or someone who looks after them, or they can come alone, whatever they're comfortable with. Before the meeting, it would be useful for the researchers to be able to meet with someone who knows the young person well, maybe a support worker or a family member, so that they then have some idea of the young person's communication needs. This will help us to make sure that we can understand each other at the meetings. We will ask the young person's permission before we do this.
Can they say no? They don't want you or Anita to contact someone else about them.
Yes, of course they can say no. That's not a problem, and then the researchers will not contact them. Before the start of the second meeting, the young person will be asked to sign a consent form like this one, which means they're okay to talk about their experiences of the support they received. If the young person is under 16, then we'll ask their parents to sign the form. The consent form needs to be signed so that we know it's okay to go ahead with the meeting.
Are the participants allowed to change their mind after signing the consent form?
Yes, they can change their mind at any time. Even if they've signed the consent form, the young person can pull out at any point during the interview. That's not a problem.
What will happen if they find some of the questions hard and don't want to answer them?
They don't have to answer all the questions if they don't want to. They can just answer the ones they feel comfortable answering. The researchers have some questions they'd like to ask, and it would help if they could either audio or video record the responses, so that after the meeting they can write down what was said. We won't play these recordings to anyone else. It will only be myself or Anita who will watch or listen to these recordings. The reason why we'd like to record our discussions is because it will make it easier for us to remember. We'll use something like this, an iPad mini, which we can prop up on the table. They're much less bother than a video camera, and we can almost forget about it, but we'll use the recordings to make notes. Any notes we make and recordings will be kept in a safe place at the university. At the end of the project, the research team will write a report with the findings from the interviews.
I don't think the young participants would like to be mentioned in the report.
The young person's name will definitely not appear in the final report, so that no one reading the report will be able to identify them. What we're hoping is that people who work in child protection will read the report and it will help them to look at how to improve their services. All the information collected from the interviews will be kept in a safe place at the university. After 5 years, it will all be destroyed, so there will be no record of anyone's involvement. So, the information will only be kept for 5 years, and it will not include people's names and will be kept completely confidential. One thing we do need to say to people who participate in the project is that if during the meeting with me or Anita the young person tells us that they're still being harmed, then we will have to tell someone. We need to make sure that this isn't allowed to continue. But by sharing their experiences, they will be helping other deaf or disabled young people and children who are currently being hurt or harmed. We hope that by meeting with them and getting them to tell us about their experiences, this will help others to improve services so that fewer deaf and disabled young people are harmed in the future.
Thank you for explaining the project to me.